Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. A couple of people have asked me about the garden studio that I've been mentioning in some of the videos, so I thought I'd do a quick video to give you an insight as to what's going on in the back garden. Basically, I'm building a studio, and this is how it started. What you're seeing now are the bare bones of how it was set up. It's 5 metres long and 3.5 metres wide. It conforms to the council regulations in regards to height, and it's basically gone through the whole process of being checked over and conforming to everything that the council say, basically. The purpose of it is to be a recording studio. I don't think I can get it soundproofed enough to be a rehearsal studio. That would mean trying to conceal the sound of a drummer, a bass player, 2 guitarists playing loud, distorted guitars, and a shouty vocalist. So that's not going to happen. I don't think there's enough insulation, and even if there was in such a small space, somebody would end up with hearing damage. So it's just going to be recording for now. There will be the occasional beer review in there as well, but that's what it's going to be. But what you're looking at now is how it started out. These are the formations for the foundation, and it was designed, as I say, it conforms to all the council regs and stuff like that. So yeah, we're all good to go on that front. But this is how it was designed, and we're lucky we've got a big back garden here, and it was just going to waste. And I hate fucking mowing lawns. I just cannot stand it. So I thought, right, there's going to be a studio here. And this is the foundation. This is the hardcore that went down for the foundation. Now I should stress here, I didn't do this part. I used to be a bricklayer years ago, so I could have done this, but my back is not the best, and that's the reason I had to give up bricklaying, was because my back is in bits. I have a bulging disc in my back which I got from hod carrying, and it ain't good, basically. So I did hire in some fellas to do this, and this is the result. This is the hardcore that's gone down in the formwork, and this is what you would put down for your base. Now underneath that there is what's known as a damp proof membrane, and there is also going to be one on top of that as well. And there was quite a bit of a job getting this into where it is now in situ, because I don't have a back entrance to the house, I don't have a side entrance to the house. Everything had to come through the house. I live in a terraced house on an estate, so as you can imagine, the place was a mess, and there was 4 or 5 geezers walking through the house full up with all this ballast, trying to get it out to the garden. And as you can imagine, the missus was not happy, but it is done now, so we are where we are. And this is the foundation laid. Now, you would not believe the ag we had with this. We had to get a concrete pump, and yeah, it was not an easy job, put it that way. As I previously mentioned, I don't have a side entrance, I don't have a back entrance to this house. The only way into the garden is via the house. So the poser was, do we put the concrete pump through the house, or we have what's called an easement, which basically means the house 3 doors down allows us to go through their garden, through next door's garden, and into our garden as a means of getting big bulky stuff in there. And unfortunately this is what we had to do, and the concrete pump that came, it had to snake around 2 houses, around all the back gardens, and come into our back garden. Believe me, that was a mission, and that added a hell of a lot of cost onto the whole project. Now when it turned up, there was a cement mixer full of stuff and the concrete pump as well. And it wasn't just this that was getting done, it was the other part of the garden. As you can see, if you look up the back of towards the house, basically, that is all concreted as well. So it had to do a fair sized area of concreting. Now if you look, you can see the formwork around there. It's raised, and I wasn't aware they were going to do that, but they did say to me, if I wanted that foundation sunk into the ground, as most foundations are, that would have cost a hell of a lot more, because they would have had to have got the spoil from there through the house, then out, then hire a skip. So we opted for this, and it did shave a hell of a lot off the price. So that's where we are now with this, and it does look like that now. It's a bit unsightly, but that's what we had to do to get this done, and it would keep the costs down. In this image you will see the hard work of some little bar steward of a fox who decided it would be a great idea to walk all over the concrete when it was laid. Now this was done, or it was completed just before it was getting dark in the evening, and the builder said just leave it overnight and by the morning it should be okay to walk on. However, foxes come out at night, don't they? And guess what he did? Mr. Fox walked all over. Initially I thought it was Percy had got out, or the other dog Benson had got out, but no, it was a fox. You can tell by the size of the paws. And my missus loves it. She thinks it gives it character, and she's left it there. You could have put some concrete repair stuff over if you wanted to get rid of it, but I just left it there. It was suggested that I name the recording studio Foxtrot Studios. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. But cheers, Mr. Fox. And here you can see the first lift that's been completed. Now, this is going to be a bit of an overkill for most garden projects, but I wanted to do it right, so I insisted that it was cavity wall constructed. That basically means there are two skins of block work, and it has a gap in the middle of 100mm, and there's insulation put in there. You can just about see that. Yeah, there you go, there's the rock wall insulation that goes in the middle. Now that adds insulation, and it also adds an element of soundproofing as well. And if you quickly look at the blocks, you'll notice that the internal blocks are all thermalite blocks, Celcon blocks, cinder blocks, whatever you want to call them. They're basically them light blocks that you get, and the outside is concrete blocks, 4.5 inch concrete blocks. And there it is up to finished height. Now as you can see, that's reasonably high. It couldn't go any higher because of the council regulations for building, and I think it's about right. It's 2.4 metres overall in height. I'm a little fella, so I'll be alright, but I'd imagine taller people may struggle. Certainly if you're about 6'6" or over, you may be banging your head on the ceiling. But it's perfect for what I want it for, so sod all you tall people. Now here's a detail of the doorway. Now if you look, you will see two concrete lintels over the doorway. Originally they were going to be catnick lintels, which are the metal lintels that are usually used on housing. However, these lintels aren't going to be load bearing. There is basically going to be nothing on top of them save for a couple of roof joists, so it's not going to be heavy at all, so they've decided to just put the two concrete tools in instead. However, the downside of that means there is a non-standard size doorway in this building, which is a pain because I've had to get a door specially made for it. I can't just pick one out from, say, Wickes or some DIY place. It's had to be specially made, so that has added cost onto the project. Unfortunately, it's the only way around it in regard to the height, so that's unfortunate. And believe me, them doors are not cheap. I just had to get a composite door, no windows, but just extra security on the locks. And here's the roof on. Firstly, you can see what I was talking about when I said it wasn't load balancing, or load bearing, not load balancing. It's not load bearing. You've only got some of them roof joists on, and it's just really supporting the weight of the roof, which isn't much comparatively when you compare it to what other lintels do, the metal lintels. So they're perfectly adequate for what they are. Now as you can see, this is a wooden roof that they've put on there, or it's going to be a wooden roof, and it's the cold type roof. Now if you're not sure what that is, it's basically a system of rafters that are built up to a certain height, and there is a gap between them and the roof. If you look on that image, you can see the cross members on there as well. And what that means is there is a gap of around 50mm, which allows for ventilation, so air is constantly getting through there, which means there won't be any condensation build up Condensation, of course, is bad for roofs. It will cause the timber to rot, basically. But you'll also get, when you've got condensation, it basically means there is some inefficiency in the overall insulation of the building, and that's not what I want. Yes, insulation is important for me, but soundproofing is also very important for me, and if there is moisture getting through, so will sound waves. So it really has to be airtight, in my opinion, and that's what I'm going for. So the cold roof option for me is pretty good. I think it's a good choice. It's easier to build and it's easier to maintain, in my opinion, than a warm roof. If you do a warm roof, you can leave yourself open for a lot of problems if you don't get it right in regard to condensation, energy loss, etc., etc. Now, I should quickly point out that there is going to be insulation going in between these rafters here. So if you can see these rafters and the cross members, obviously there will be a roof on top of that, but in between them rafters there will be some insulation, the phenolic type of insulation, also known as Celotex, and that is going to provide, obviously, insulation against moisture and stuff like that, but it's also going to provide some soundproofing as well. And once that goes in, I'm also going to use some, most people would be using foam to infill the gaps in between the rafters. I won't be doing that. I will be using a substance or a thing that is known as Gapotape. Gapotape is an absolutely amazing invention, and it perfectly eliminates what's known as the performance gap, and it provides an airtight fit around your insulation in between them roof joists. Here's a quick video that explains what it is.
The simple application of Gapotape allows you to achieve the full performance of your insulation by eliminating the performance gap. Measure the aperture, top and bottom of your rafters. Take a blended average and cut your insulation panels 8 to 10 millimeters shorter than the gap. Once the insulation panel is cut, make sure all surfaces are free from any dust. Once applied, Gapotape will take out all inaccuracies, be it in the cut of the boards or the rafters themselves. Simply roll out the Gapotape to your required length, cut with scissors, peel back the release paper and fold the wings over onto the panel. Be sure to strike along the wings to create a bond between the foil surface and the glued edge. Repeat on all 4 sides and simply friction fit your panel between the rafters. As your building settles and elements contract over time, Gapotape will continue to create an airtight thermal seal along all edges, helping you to achieve the full performance of your insulation.
Now, in my opinion, that is a fantastic invention. It is not cheap, I know, but I want to use it because it really will aid in the elimination of sound waves escaping via the roof. And here is, as you can see, is the soffit that has gone round there. If you notice, you can see there's some ventilation in the plastic. Them gaps around the top are a real bugbear for me. Now, the roof was put on before they could be infilled, so I'm going to have to come up with some sort of solution to remedy that. This is the roof on the top, and this is a fiberglass roof. Now, this should last a lifetime. It really is hard wearing, 100% waterproof, 100% weatherproof as well. And here is the room with the roof on, so you're looking at the view from the inside as you would be standing at the doorway. As you can see, it's starting to take shape. There's a couple of little niggles in there, as I just mentioned. Certainly the gaps around the edges of the wall, I need to come up with some sort of solution which provides insulation and also provides soundproofing as well, and also protects from the elements too. So that is going to be much fun. I'll have to come up with, I don't know what I'm going to do, probably some sort of plastic fascia, stuff it full of rock wool and some of the Celotex insulation. Hopefully that will work. The other problem I have is the damp proof course. I'm hoping it's going to be okay with the damp proof membrane that went under the concrete. The fact that the concrete base is raised shouldn't mean there will be water ingress from the sides, because there is no damp clay to transfer that dampness into the concrete. I shall have to wait and see, but there will be a damp proof membrane going down on the top of the floor anyway, underneath the wooden flooring when that goes down. Now, what I'm going to do now is I will just give you a quick video that will just give you a quick walk around so you can see the building in the flesh. Right, this is the garden studio build. Now, as you can see, it's quite a way up already. That is a 2-skin wall. It's cavity. It's got 100mm cavity filled with rock wall insulation. Timber roof on there with, so I should say cold timber roof with fiberglass on top. This is the inside. The measurements are along this way. It's 5 meters 400, and along this way it is 3 meters 5, I think. That's what it is, and obviously it conforms to the correct height for the planning permission. I'll just give you a quick look on the outside. That is the guttering on that side. If you can see there's all vented soffits along the top. That is for your cold roof. One thing that is going to be a bit of a problem is how to get the insulation into there. I might have to pack that up with thin Celotex and then just stuff it full of rock wool, that stuff over there, just stuff it in there, and then put some sort of plastic fascia up there just to keep out the damp. That's going to have to go all the way around, which is a pain in the arse. There's a couple of things that I'm not too happy about on this build. There's no DPC along the bottom, if you can see that. Normally you'd have a course of bricks, sometimes 2 bricks, and they'd put a DPC along the top and that will stop your damp. There's none there at the moment. The builder's reasoning behind that was there was a damp proof membrane under this concrete. This concrete base is raised, as you can see, so there's not really going to be much ingress from the sides when it comes to damp. So his reasoning was that there won't be any damp. I'm not too concerned about it because it's not a domicile, if you know what I mean. There's going to be no one permanently staying here. This is just going to be a studio, but that's just a little concern I've got. And of course there's the getting the insulation into there as well, which is going to be a problem. Now there is going to be 100mm Celotex going in between the rafters here. 100mm. I'm going to put Gapotape over the side. If you're not too sure what Gapotape is, that is a foam type tape that goes along the sides of the insulation. It's like silver foil tape with some padding that you can put in between there, and it moves with the gaps as the joists move as well, with the heat and the cold, obviously with expansion and contraction, etc. They come very highly recommended, and they do film what's known as the performance gap, i.e. where you get very, very slim gaps in here, and you can get not water ingress, but you can get damp and cold that come in, and it just weakens the integrity of the thermal properties of the building. So there you go. Now what's going to happen here is I'm going to put up a stud wall all the way around. That is going to have 50mm acoustic insulation all around the side. I'm toying with the idea of putting some of this stuff in. This was what was left over from the cavities, so I may use this on one side of the wall and compress it down to 50mm. As you can see, it's quite flexible in that thing, but it's just horrible shit to work with because obviously it's fiberglass and you get that on your skin and it itches like a bastard. But there's going to be that, and then I'm going to have soundproof plasterboard all the way around, soundproof plasterboard on the ceiling. Then I'm just going to joint and tape it all, and for the floor there is going to be another damp proof membrane, one of them thermal layers that you can put down for wooden flooring. There's going to be wooden flooring over the top, but I am toying with the idea of putting in a solar panel or a couple of solar panels on this side, because this side of the wall is south facing, so it'll be permanently, when the sun's out, it'll be permanently getting hit by the sun. And I'm considering putting solar panel on the floor heating, which will be another source of heat during the winter. So there you have it. That's the plan. All the materials for the stud wall are going to be delivered on Tuesday. It's now Saturday, so they're going to be delivered on Tuesday. It's a bank holiday Monday. It's the 1st of May Monday, so Tuesday is when the materials for that is 3x2. There's going to be, I think, 25 or 30 lengths of that. I also ordered the Celotex for the roof in here, so that's going to be going in as well. Before I do that, I need to put in, just up here somewhere, I need to put in some guides, some little small wooden pieces up here, just about 105mm, so as when I push the Celotex up, it's got something to butt up to, so I'm not guessing, and I'm not compromising the 50mm gap that you need for the cold roof up here. I'm also going to put some angle brackets on the end, so where this cavity stops, the insulation will stop as well, so it's going to cover the cavity, but it's also going to protect the inside of it from any damp proof. And I've just realised will I get that in there? Oh, that's probably another thing I'm going to have to work out. Yeah, so there's going to be a plastic soffit all the way around the outside. I'm just going to have to stuff that full of, probably use that rock wool. Actually, I won't be able to use that for the wall, so I'll just have to stuff that full of rock wool, just as some extra insulation. But yeah, there's a couple of little niggles on this which I'm not too happy about the way it was built, but we are where we are now. So there you go. Next video I'll probably show you will be when all the stud work is up. The electrics are going to be put in before the actual insulation goes in, and once that's done, there's going to be some other lighting and stuff that needs to go in before the rest of it, and then once that's in, all the insulation and once all the electrics are in, the insulation can go in, and then the vapor barrier can go up. So there you have it. If you're interested in looking at the finished product, well, what I'll do is I'll give you video updates as and when something happens. Just before I do call it a day with this video, the window and the door, they have to be specially made, and the reason that was the door frame is not standard size. It had to be cut a little bit shorter because of the height. Now, if I'd have put a standard size door in it, it wouldn't have conformed to the council regulations for the height. And the window is just 800 by 800, so that's more or less a standard size, but it still has to be made up. And believe it or not, they are not cheap. Double glazing is not cheap. That door is about, well, just under £1,000, and that's just a composite door, no window. It's got double security locks on it and whatnot, but yeah, they're not cheap. But there you go. Next update will be the stud work when that's all finished.